Good morning. I'm meteorologist Kevin Smith at the National Weather Service in Pocatello. This is your Southeast Idaho weather hazard briefing for Wednesday, April 3rd, 2019. It's a pretty wet morning out there for those of you just waking up. Taking a look at our regional radar loop here. Widespread rain shower activity is ongoing across portions of the eastern Magic Valley, the Raft River region, extending up through a decent portion of the Snake Plain. We're actually also seeing some precipitation down here into portions of the southern highlands and even out toward Bear Lake and the Wyoming border. Not all of that is showing up very well here on our radar. We're expecting this activity to generally continue through the morning hours, but over time it's going to move off to the east-northeast and tend to diminish across the region. So we are expecting a little bit of an improving trend as we go into later this morning, but expect continued rain showers mixing with just a little bit of snow at the highest elevations as that activity works through. And then we'll be looking for some redevelopment this afternoon, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. High temperatures continued mild today across the region, similar to what we've been seeing for the past few days. Highs getting up into the mid-50s here in the lower elevations of the Snake Plain and eastern Magic Valley, getting well into the 40s across most of our mountain regions. So we are expecting some redevelopment this afternoon, generally isolated to scattered rain and snow shower activity. You can see everywhere shaded on the graphic here is where we're expecting that, and the greens here are where we'll see rain. You can see some purples and blues here at the peaks and ridge lines for a little bit of snow shower activity at the highest elevations. And there may be just enough instability this afternoon that we may see an isolated thunderstorm or two mixed in with this activity as well. Not expecting any strong to severe weather or anything like that. It's a very marginal setup. But if we do see a storm or two, we'll have to watch out for a few lightning strikes, perhaps a downpour embedded in that activity during the afternoon hours. We're going to see a drying trend this evening building in from the west, so we'll hold on to a few showers here, particularly across eastern portions of the forecast area, along and east of I-15 over to the Wyoming border. But a drying trend will be in progress, and that'll expand as we go into the overnight hours, maybe holding on to a shower up here along the Montana border and the upper Snake Highlands, and again along the Wyoming border. The rest of you seeing a break. And we'll see a chance of a few showers starting to return, starting to creep back into the picture here as we look at the map for Thursday afternoon. High temperatures on Thursday continued mild across the region, potentially making a run at 60 degrees down here across the eastern Magic Valley and lower Snake Plain, places like Twin Falls, Burley, and Pocatello. You can see our population centers here at lower elevations of the Central Mountains actually getting into the low 50s or around 50 degrees for high temperatures Thursday. Now, as we get into Thursday afternoon and beyond, we're expecting a low-pressure system to start approaching the Pacific Northwest coast. And as it does so, it's going to push a couple disturbances inland across the northern Rockies. And we've kind of divided this into two waves or two disturbances that are going to move through our forecast area. That first wave is expected to come through from Thursday evening into Friday afternoon. I think the heaviest of this activity will really be from late Thursday night into Friday morning in particular. And this graphic is showing you the total amount of new liquid equivalent that we're expected out of that first wave or that first system. Generally pretty light across the region. You can see very light amounts here in the Snake Plain, maybe a tenth of an inch to 2/10 of an inch here across some of our mountains and highlands across the region, but really not expecting anything terribly heavy at this vantage point out of this first wave. Snow levels will be running pretty high, averaging about 7,000 feet or even a little higher for this first wave of shower activity. So as we switch over to snow during the same period from late Thursday evening into Friday afternoon, but particularly through Friday morning, really only expecting a dusting to an inch or two at the highest elevations, these highest peaks and ridge lines here, particularly in the Central Mountains. Really not expecting any widespread travel issues across the region out of this first wave, given those high snow levels and mild temperatures across the region. Here's those morning low temperatures Friday morning with that wave, and you can see we're quite mild here down in the Snake Plain, just cold enough for a little bit of that snow to mix in here across the Central Mountains at those higher peaks. High temperatures on Friday getting up again into the upper 50s to close to 60 degrees at lower elevations, and still making a run at 50 for many of our population centers here in our mountain ranges, Island Park and up across the Central Mountains. Now the second wave of shower activity that we're expecting is expected to be wetter. It's expected to have more moisture associated with it, and that's going to come through from Friday evening into Saturday afternoon. Heaviest portion of this during the overnight hours, Friday night into early Saturday morning. So you can see as we look at total new liquid equivalent expected out of this system, a lot more than the first system. 1/10 to 1/4 inch here at lower elevations, including the Snake Plain, may creep up above 1/4 inch of liquid equivalent here in the southern highlands, the mountains around Bear Lake, up along the Wyoming border. Here in the central mountains to the west of Chalice, to the west of Stanley, may see amounts approaching 1/2 inch of liquid. Some of that falling as rain, some of that falling as snow if you were to melt it down here across the western central mountains. With snow levels falling to 5,000 to 6,000 feet with this second wave, we are expecting some greater snow accumulations. Still not a huge event for most of the region. We're still expecting all rain here in the Snake Plain. You can see a few spots like Island Park and West Yellowstone may pick up an inch or two, again, Friday night into Saturday morning. Pine Creek Pass may see an inch or two. Emigration may see a couple inches. But here in the western central mountains is the area we're going to be watching the closest. And let me zoom in on that area for you here. Expecting 2 to 3 inches of snow for places like Ketchum and Stanley. And then as you get up just a little higher in elevation, we may see amounts approaching 4, 5, even 6 inches at some of the mountain passes here, including Galena Summit, possibly Banner Summit. Now, this could change over the next few days. We're certainly going to watch those trends in our model guidance, but certainly a little bit of a higher potential here for some travel impacts, at least across the mountain passes here in the central mountains. Again, as we go into Friday night into early Saturday. Here's those morning low temperatures Saturday, certainly colder than what we saw the day before, getting down below freezing for a greater portion of the central mountains, but still supporting rain showers here in the lower elevations of the Snake Plain and the Magic Valley. And high temperatures a little cooler as we get into Saturday afternoon. There is a cold front associated with this second wave of precipitation coming through. We'll shave off about 5 degrees, 6 degrees for a lot of locations across our forecast area, getting into the low 50s, low to mid 50s here at lower elevations, 40s again across our mountains. So with all the continued mild temperatures and a couple chances here for some more precipitation across the region, of course, we're still watching very closely for hydrologic issues, any flood potential. May see some rises on streams, creeks, and rivers as we go throughout the next 4 or 5 days here. The only flood alert that we have in effect is a flood advisory, shown by this graphic here. So here's Haley and Bellevue as you come down the lower Wood River Valley. Here's the Peekaboo area and Cary over here to the right-hand side of the graphic. This advisory is in effect for portions of the Silver Creek area, including Peekaboo. So really from where Silver Creek tries to connect in here with the Little Lost River, up through Peekaboo and then out across the flats here, places like Kilpatrick Bridge Road, all of the lowlands and flats across that region, watching for the potential for some minor flooding there as Silver Creek reaches bankfull. And this is the latest hydrograph for Silver Creek. You can see the blue line here indicating over the past few days it's been holding right in action stage, so right around bankfull level, just below the actual flood stage. So we're going to continue to watch for some flooding there. May actually see a little bit of increase as we go into the next several days with those warm temperatures and several rounds of precipitation expected. Certainly we're watching all our rivers, but another one that we're watching particularly closely is the Portneuf River. So here's the graph for the Portneuf River at Topaz. You can see it's running about a half a foot or so below bankfull here, according to the blue line. The blue line is the history of the water level there. And then as you go into the future here, this purple line with the boxes is the forecast over the next several days. So if you look at the key here, as we get into the weekend, Saturday, Sunday time frame, we may be seeing the river get very close to bankfull out there near the Topaz area. And as we click in here to the Portneuf River in Pocatello, similar trend with a rising level as you head into the weekend, possibly getting fairly close to bankfull by the time we get out into Sunday morning or so. So right now holding shy of flood stage, but one of the rivers that looks like it may get fairly close with some rises expected over the next several days, and we'll continue to monitor that for you as well. That's it for your hazard briefing this morning. If you have any questions for us, as always, we encourage you to reach out, and have a great day.